Jai Om Vishnupad Puramansi Pariprajaka Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai, Navadip Tham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamanamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and thank you to the Alachua Kirtan All-Stars for that lovely kirtan. And welcome to everyone for Sri Caitanya Caritamrta class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Thursday, August 8th, 2024 in New York. And according to my notes anyway, tonight we'll be picking up with Adi-lila, chapter 9, text number 39. Is that what you have, Maharaj?
Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ataiva Sabapala Deha Yaretare Kaya Haukloka Ajara Amare. Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. Purport: the Krishna consciousness movement introduced by Lord Chaitanya is extremely important because one who takes to it becomes eternal, being freed from birth, death, and old age. People do not recognize that the real distresses in life are the four principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. They are so foolish that they resign themselves to these four miseries, not knowing the transcendental remedy of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from all misery. But because they are enchanted by the illusory energy, people do not take this movement seriously. Therefore, those who are actually servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must seriously distribute this movement all over the world to render the greatest benefit to human society. Of course, animals and other lower species are not capable of understanding this movement. But if even a small number of human beings take it seriously, then by their chanting loudly, all living entities, including even trees, animals, and other lower species, will be benefited. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Haridas Thakur how he was to benefit living entities other than humans, Srila Haridas Thakur replied that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is so potent that if it is chanted loudly, everyone will benefit, including the lower species of life. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyevacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He starts the purport by saying, one who takes to this movement becomes eternal, being freed from birth, death, and old age. Of course, we're already eternal, but because our consciousness is so mired in the bodily concept, we don't experience ourselves as eternal at all. We experience the temporality of everything, and the hallmark of temporality are these four features: birth, death, old age, and disease. He says people don't recognize these are the real problems. And he says they resign themselves to these four miseries. It's like, okay, that's the price you pay for having a little bit of fun, but we want that fun, so we'll pay the price, not understanding what's really going on. They're so foolish. One can become free from all misery, but because they're enchanted by the illusory energy, people don't take the movement seriously. If you want something other than Krishna, you want Maya. You want Maya, you get birth, death, old age, and disease. That's how strong the illusion is. Therefore, those who are actually servants of Chaitanya must distribute this all over the world. He says, of course, animals and other lower species are not capable of understanding this movement. I wanted to add to that list, animals and lower species, and some of our family members are not capable of understanding this movement. But if even a small number, by their chanting loudly, everyone, all living entities get benefit. This is the hallmark of the intense faith that Prabhupada himself has in the Maha Mantra, that if even a small number of people take to it seriously and chant it loudly, everyone gets benefit. And then he brings up how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to benefit living entities other than humans. Maha Mantra is so potent that if it is chanted loudly, everyone will benefit. I was thinking how Krishna is really running the total show as Paramatma. He's accompanying the jiva everywhere, and he's making everything happen. The jivas aren't making things happen. The things actually happen because of the presence of Krishna. And so if you bring in the presence of Krishna as the Nam avatar, then different things will happen. I was thinking how during the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna and Arjuna were on the same chariot. As soon as Krishna stepped off the chariot at the end, the chariot basically went to ashes immediately, because he's showing that without him, there's non-existence is the default in the material world. But we can't see this because we're so in love with the illusion. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you. Hare Krishna. I think you're still muted.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadesha Tarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We were talking about gardening earlier, so now here's the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the ultimate gardener and distributing the fruits of love for Krishna. And he's requesting or ordering everyone to distribute the fruits of Krishna consciousness for the benefit of all. The people think that helping people consists of distributing food, distributing clothing, helping the victims of disasters. But the whole material world is a disaster. And the real way to render the greatest benefit to human society is to seriously distribute this movement of Krishna consciousness all over the world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Do you have other persons on site there who have questions or would like to read also?
Comments or readers? We have Panchatattva Prabhu. We have Acharya Prabhu. We have Purushartha Prabhu. Anyone who'd like to read or comment. Actually, the readers usually comment, but yeah.
I'll read if I don't have to comment.
You'll read if you don't have to comment. Okay, but now we have to distribute this laptop to you.
Should I move or stay here?
Here, you can just take it.
What was the text that was just read?
That was 39, so we're on text 40 in chapter 9.
Jagat Vyapya Mora Habe Punya Kyati Sukhi Haya Lokamora Gahi Beka Kirti. Should I do word for it or just? No. If the fruits are distributed all over the world, my reputation as a pious man will be known everywhere, and thus all people will glorify my name with great pleasure. Purport. This prediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's is now actually coming to pass. The Krishna consciousness movement is being distributed all over the world through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and people who were leading confused, chaotic lives are now feeling transcendental happiness. They are finding peace in Sankirtan, and therefore they are acknowledging the supreme benefit of this movement. This is the blessing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His prediction is now factually being fulfilled, and those who are sober and conscientious are appreciating the value of this great movement.
Any comments? Anyone?
I had heard, I can't remember exactly where, but it was describing how Lord Chaitanya had performed Sankirtan all over Navadvip area. And then it said the question could be raised. Oh, he performed Sankirtan and this way spread it all over the world, spread the chanting of the holy name all over the world. So the question could be raised, if he just chanted it in this area, how is it that he spread it all over the world? So Prabhupada answers and says, the current Hare Krishna movement is is Lord Chaitanya spreading it all over the world. This is how he did that. So we see this gap of 500 years, but that's nothing to Krishna. It's like, this will happen. Everything goes according to Krishna's time, not our perspective of how things should go.
And if we distribute it, it will continue to.
That does remind me of a conversation with Prabhupada that I can't remember all the details, but Prabhupada was talking about how powerful Bhaktivinoda Thakur was. And one disciple said, oh, how come he didn't, spread the movement all over the world if he's so powerful? And Prabhupada said he left it for you or us, whichever he said, to complete it.
You'd like to read this?
Sure.
We just have a comment in the chat, and perhaps a devil's advocate question here from Tulsi Priya regarding text 39, just going back a little bit. So here's the devil's advocate question. Srila Prabhupada says that the rosy promises of scientists and politicians are a, quote, post-dated check. But the materialists may reply, the promise of eternal life and an end to birth, death, old age, and disease is also a post-dated check, as we see that even those who practice Krishna consciousness are undergoing old age, disease, and death. How to answer this objection?
Well, one thing is, who's writing the check? When some scientist writes the check, but when Krishna writes the check, I'll take that check any day. So that's one consideration. Also another consideration is, all right, even if we don't get eternal life in the spiritual world, just this life, to be able to chant Hare Krishna and relish Krishna consciousness is good enough. Yes, Panchatat.
So many checks have been written.
Loud.
So many checks have been written and cashed with great success.
So many checks have been written.
The bank is
cashed with
actually
great success.
solvent.
Yeah.
I like your point.
And-
Why put faith in scientists? Why put faith in material scientists?
Why put faith in the
or
check
such
of
person?
material scientists? Yeah. Okay.
But
Anyone
one
else?
thing occurs to me in that regard, actually, and Tulsi Priya says, thank you, Maharaj, and Panchatattva, is that there's a whole different currency involved, actually, when we're talking, if you want to use the checks analogy, because when we talk about the knowledge that we're receiving versus the quality or type of knowledge that, or so-called knowledge that that we're being fed practically from infancy, thanks to the the speculators and so on. Basically, we're being taught a lot of theories as knowledge, which is just straight up cheating. So you're going to accept a post-dated check from somebody like that, or we say that we have a knowledge tradition that is very carefully maintaining a parampara, and you can go into discussing that.
Of course, they'll say, we have our theories, you have their we have our theories, you have your theories. So why should we put more faith in you? And our knowledge has been handed down from, of course, they can say that, but it hasn't, because it's been changing. I'm reminded of Rabindraswami Prabhu's quip that they always say, we used to think, but now we know. And really what they should say is, we used to know, but now we think.
We were talking about that yesterday with Ravindra Prabhu in his morning class from Mayapur. And it occurred to me that as Kali Yuga progresses, one of the qualities that diminishes is goodness. And Prabhupada makes that point all over the place, that actual knowledge, what qualifies as knowledge from our paradigm's point of view, it depends upon sattva gun. And if that's absent or lacking or diminishing, then you won't have the ability to be asangshayam. You won't have that ability to have doubtless knowledge. You always be saying maybe, perhaps, I'm not sure.
Thank you. Yes, Purushottam Prabhu.
Oh,
Hold on a second. If Purushottam Prabhu and the others are speaking, do you hear, or should I move things?
can you hear?
I heard it when Panchatattva Prabhu was speaking quite clearly.
It's because I'm very loud.
So it just means loud.
It just means loud.
Everybody has faith. Otherwise, you couldn't function at all without some faith, to be in everything. Right? We assume things will function in a certain way. There's faith. So hopefully, we try to use our intelligence to know where to put our faith. You could go here or here or here. If we look at, excuse me, the Vedic version, it just makes a lot more sense in terms of, I'll put my faith here. The rest of it, who knows? But this seems to be the best idea. I will put my faith there.
Yes.
It's also not without evidence. It's not lacking in evidence-based experience when you practice Krishna consciousness. There's evidence. There are things that strengthen your faith as you move along. When you're chanting Hare Krishna, when you're associating with devotees and seeing their examples, when you see the change in yourself as a result of taking to this process. It's experiential.
Plus, there's logic and
That's,
reasoning behind it as well.
then we'll say, well, people have faith in bogus things and they think this is the most wonderful thing. I've made so much progress that like this, I've become, an operating titan or, whatever it is. And since I've started this diet, everything has changed and it doesn't really work. One thing is we axiomatically accept the Shastras as a source of evidence. Our subjective experience may confirm or not confirm the Vedic statements, but we accept them as authority. That's and fine. If you don't, then just accept that you're not going to get anything from this literature, from this path. It will be by your own choice closed to you. All right, that's how it is. If you want to close off, feel free. But if you accept it, so much will be available to you. And if we accept what shall we say, the metaphysics of modern science, then where does it put us? Ross and I were talking about this the other day, drawing on Sariputta Prabhu. When you take the metaphysics of modern science, everything finally boils down to chemicals, everything finally boils down to simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler products of nature, and then evolves up from there. What it gives you is finally that there's no meaning to anything, because there's no ground, no basis for meaning. Meaning is arbitrarily assigned. Life has meaning because we say it has meaning. And whatever we say has meaning, is equally valid. Well, if it's true for you, whatever we accept as our truth, that's the truth for us. And there's no objective basis for ethical values, moral values, spiritual values, ultimate values of any kind. As Sariputta Prabhu points out, life finally just comes down to a description of ones and zeros, sequences of ones and zeros. And when we do things, we just change the sequence. But one sequence doesn't mean anything more or less than any other sequence. It's all arbitrary. When we assign, there's what is it, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And the major theme in that book is that you have to have something to live for. As a concentration camp survivor, he saw that the people who made it were the people who had something to live for. They wanted to meet their granddaughter, or they wanted to play violin again in an orchestra, or they wanted to something. So the important thing is to have something that's meaningful for you, whatever it is. That's what we arrive at. But if you take that, then what makes life meaningful for me is to escape from the concentration camp. And what makes life work, to live, to see freedom again from the concentration camp. And what gives life meaning to someone else is to implement the Führer's final solution. It's arbitrary. Why is my desire for freedom any more valuable than the desire to stamp out those pernicious Jews and gypsies? There's no objective basis for saying that my value is better than your value. Everything is really finally meaningless. It has meaning only, something has meaning only when we ascribe meaning to it, and that's arbitrary. So that's where the reductionistic religion or reductionistic metaphysics takes us. If you think that's good, okay, sign on. That's where you are. Nothing means anything, nothing is real. It's only your ascribing value to it that gives it value. We have a different view.
Thank you, Maharaj. There's several things in the chat here. Tulsi Priya goes on to say from her previous devil's advocate question, She says, still, the point remains that we become old, we get sick and die, and the promise is to be fulfilled after death. So we can't prove to them that our check is good.
No. You don't have to accept it. If you accept that any check written by, whoever it is, by George Soros is good, then you'll take the check. And if you don't accept that, you won't. And we can't prove to you that this check won't bounce. It's up to you. You have faith in it, take it. If you don't, don't.
Surabhi Kunj makes the point that we put our faith where we think happiness will be found.
Yeah.
And Praveen, I'm sorry.
Prabhupada gives the example that you go to the barber and you lie in a chair like this, and someone holds a razor to your throat because you have faith.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu says, many post-dated checks of the scientists have gone out of date.
Yes. Yes.
And he also posts in the chat a link to an article by your good self, NASA Spaces Out, from your website. For those on Zoom can look at that later. And Tulsi Priya continues with another angle. I do agree that life itself is better with Krishna consciousness, but I'm just referring to this idea of freedom from old age and death. There's no visible evidence to refute their promises with. The idea of living forever in the same material body is preposterous, even from the material point of view, so it's pointless to even pursue it.
Yeah, it is. It's preposterous to follow the idea of living on in this material body indefinitely, although some people seem to hope to do that. And we can't prove to you that there's life after death. Krishna offers a reasonable argument that we've traveled from childhood to youth to old age, and therefore it's reasonable to accept that after this body, we'll go to the next body. What is that? Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sata. Ubayor api drishtontas tvanios tattvadarshibhi. The tattvadarshis, the seers of the truth, the wise sages, they've accepted that there are two things in this world. There's a permanent constituent and there's a temporary constituent. We don't have to talk about, let's leave death to freedom from death to some other day. Let's put that aside. But for now, there are two things. There's the permanent constituent of reality, and there's the temporary constituent. This body is the temporary constituent. No arguing about that. But there's a permanent constituent. That's consciousness. That was present in childhood. It's present in youth. It's present in old age. So you're a scientist. You explain what that consciousness is. If it's something material, then you explain it in terms of your material understandings. Otherwise, the Tattvadarshibhis have asserted that it's something different from matter. And as we were hearing from Caitanya Maharaj, that in increasing numbers, that some scientist was saying, I used to be saying this stuff, that consciousness is different from ordinary matter, that it's of a different nature. And I was sort of brushed off as a fringe philosopher. He said, now I'm in the mainstream. What have I done wrong?
Thank you, Maharaj. Tulsi Priya says your answer definitely transcended her devil's concerns. And she says, thank you again.
Thank you. Yes, Dr.
It's also a deliberate arrangement. If we're going to if we're going to identify with these material bodies rather completely, there has to be an arrangement. There has to be a curtain.
If we're going to identify with this body completely, there has to be an arrangement, there has to be a curtain.
Hiding the truth.
Hiding the truth. Well, it hasn't hidden the truth that everyone dies. It hasn't hidden that.
But that curtain more or less prevents one from seeing directly what's happening after death.
That's true. The curtain prevents us from seeing what's after death. Therefore, we need some other process. If I can't see what's on the back of my head, I need some process. I need someone to tell me what's there. I need a couple of mirrors. I need something, because I'm not going to directly see. So some other process is there. Easiest process is hearing. What's on the back of my head? Oh my God, you've got a big gash there. What did you do to yourself? So by hearing, you get knowledge of that which is inaccessible to your vision. That's a process we take all the time. So that's our process for seeing what we can't directly see. If we hear from the right source, we'll get knowledge. But returning to my point, we may or may not live forever after this body, but in this body, there's something different, which appears to have no beginning and no end. As the body changes, which it always does, that part stays as it is. Well, let's discuss this point, and when you've, come to terms with it, then we'll discuss what's next. We don't even have a clear picture of what's now. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're saying that consciousness somehow is an outgrowth of matter, an epiphenomenon of matter, and you call yourself a scientist, but you have no way to demonstrate this. You're just going on a kind of faith. This is your metaphysic, and it's not really well thought out. Dhiranam. One reason is because you're not dhira. You're trying to understand all these the most subtle facts about existence, and you're drinking, smoking, woman hunting, gambling. What do you hope to understand? Your instruments are contaminated, just like in scientific experimentation. Your petri dishes contaminated. You're not going to find out anything. So we need to, if we want to find out something about our ultimate nature, we have to have clean instruments. Therefore, as you're pointing out, the mode of goodness is required. Sattvat sanjayate jnana. From the mode of goodness comes knowledge. If you want to turn your back on the mode of goodness, you want to drink, smoke, hunt women, and so on, and then you want to argue about knowledge. As Prabhupada was pointing out, if you want to go to the law college, first you need some qualifications. You have to have finished your undergraduate degree, and so on. So they're not qualified. They don't even keep their instruments clean, and they want to say, I want to perform an experiment without experimental truth, blah, blah, blah. I had a fellow, one time he came to Rath Yatra, where I was sitting in the question booth in Rath Yatra, New York, at Washington Square Park. So this fellow comes up with a girlfriend, her little mini skirt, sits down, puts his girlfriend on his lap and says, so tell me about your philosophy. There's some previous qualifications required. for understanding these things.
Saraswati Mata has a comment here. Pranams Param Puji Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. The pure character of devotees exhibiting true peace and a bodily glow, even if the body is old or sick or diseased, etc., cannot be compared to that of a materialistic person, even if they are mostly under the mode of goodness. When the self-realized soul speaks with love and humility, showing unparalleled concern for all living beings and their ultimate goal and purpose cannot be imitated by a materialist. The transformation of character that a devotee undergoes is like a miracle.
Yeah, when Narada met the hunter wasn't a philosopher, but he was influenced by the purity of Narad Muni. He's something about him just made him offer, what can I give you? Can I give you some deer skin, something? And he saw there's something special. So when the devotees follow the 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, and engage in devotional service, they'll have a potency that will affect people. They may be philosophically astute, they may not be philosophically astute, but they'll see this person is something about this person. It will act. It will act. And it did act in Narada. The hunter became a saintly person. And people were, again, impressed by the hunter himself, served as evidence of the potency of devotional service. Should we read forward? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Maharaj. I was going to say that our next verse is a very famous one with quite an extended commentary. And so we have some time left. It may take us some days or some multiple sessions to get through it, but it might be nice to begin that.
Okay. Yes, who wants? We'll hand it over to the. Sure, why not? Acharya Upasangamya.
Text 41. Bharata bhumite haila manusya janmayar janma sartaka karikara para upakara. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatavarsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. It's a very long purport, so tell me when to stop.
You can chop it up and read something
Okay.
and say something.
Purport. The magnanimity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressed in this very important verse. Although he was born in Bengal, and Bengalis therefore have a special duty towards him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is addressing not only Bengalis, but all the inhabitants of India. It is in the land of India that actual human civilization can be developed. I'll throw out a comment here. Maybe I'm just being defensive, but Prabhupada also said that Bharatavarsha also refers to the entire world. So maybe I just don't want to be left out. Human life is especially meant for God realization, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Anyone who takes birth in the land of India, Bharatavarsha, has the special privilege of being able to take advantage of the instruction and guidance of the Vedic civilization. He automatically receives the basic principles of spiritual life. For 99.9% of the Indian people, even simple village farmers and others who are neither educated nor sophisticated, believe in the transmigration of the soul, believe in past and future lives, believe in God, and naturally want to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative. These ideas are the natural inheritance of a person born in India. India has many holy places of pilgrimage, such as Gaya, Benares, Mathura, Prayag, Vrindavan, Haridwar, Rameshwaram, and Jagannath Puri, and still people go there by the hundreds and thousands. Although the present leaders of India are influencing the people not to believe in God, not to believe in a next life, and not to believe in a distinction between pious and impious life, and although they are teaching them how to drink wine, eat meat, and become supposedly civilized, people are nevertheless afraid of the four activities of sinful life, namely illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. And whenever there is a religious festival, they gather together by the thousands. We have actual experience of this. Whenever the Krishna consciousness movement holds a Sankirtan festival in a big city like Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Ahmedabad, or Hyderabad, thousands of people come to hear. Sometimes we speak in English, but even though most people do not understand English, they nevertheless come to hear us. Even when imitation incarnations of Godhead speak, people gather in the thousands, for everyone who is born in the land of India has a natural spiritual inclination and is taught the basic principles of spiritual life. They merely need to be a little more educated in the Vedic principles. Therefore, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu says here, Janma Sartaka Karikara Para Upakara. If an Indian is educated in the Vedic principles, he is able to perform the most beneficial welfare activity for the entire world. Break for discussion there, or?
Just a thought that you see, this is gone off, of course. Your microphone is very unusual, it doesn't really stick. We see now that there's a Indian diaspora. Indian people are all over the world, especially all over America, Europe. So this is an opportunity for them to use their spiritual credit. They can spread powerfully this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and benefit the whole world. And we could say that it's the duty of the Krishna consciousness movement to encourage or energize these fortunate people to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. They have education, they have wealth, they have piety, they have refined cultural values, they have stability, they have expertise in so many ways. So they have respect. So when they make the attempt to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, it will act powerfully. You look what Prabhupada did with, just whoever he could catch in America. Catchers catch can. So if Prabhupada was able to do so much with just whoever drifted in the door from Ugrastan, what can be accomplished by the people of Punyabhumi, of India. So therefore, Prabhupada says that every Indian should take this very seriously as an order from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Janma Sarta Kori Kara Paropakar.
Thank you, Maharaj. What you said made me think how at one point in ISKCON's history, Prabhupada said to his disciples, I shouldn't be the only Indian in this Krishna consciousness movement. Because at one point he was.
I remember seeing that in like Brooklyn Temple in the old days and in various other places, if like one Indian would come, practically Prabhupada would speak on this point. He would really push it in a way that, we at the time we might have thought was unusual. Why is he pushing just this one person? But Prabhupada considered there's a special duty there or special opportunity there. We see, just for an example, that one of the young Indian people who was coming was a young business executive named Gopal in New York, and that one young Gopal became Gopal Krishna Goswami, and did so much to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Just one young fellow who was from India and working in New York City, because he took the Krishna consciousness movement so seriously, he was able to accomplish so much for spreading the Hare Krishna movement. So others can follow that example.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, there's one question left in the chat, and then perhaps we can take a break for kirtan. Priti Purna Madhavi Devi says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, one girl had asked me why the Lord descends to India at different times in different forms and not other parts of the world. India is not defined by boundaries today, but nearby regions as well.
Well, my usual standard answer is good home cooking. But here Prabhupada has said Punya Bhumi. So it's meant just like if you're gonna get into diamonds, maybe you'll go to Belgium or you'll go to South Africa. If you want to get into rubber, maybe you'll go to Malaysia or some similar place. If you want to get into coconuts, you might go to Thailand or Hawaii. There are different parts of the world that are identified with different characteristics. Even different countries are known to have different characteristics. Different European countries or different Latin American countries have very specific characteristics. So India has this characteristic that it's Punya Bhumi, and Prabhupada just sort of gave us a run through of some of the qualities of the people of Punya Bhumi. That they naturally believe in God, they naturally believe in life after death, they naturally believe in transmigration from one body to the next, they naturally have a tendency to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But these qualities are there. So Krishna comes in that Dharma Kshetra, Guru Kshetra. Otherwise, he sends his representatives to other parts of the world also. His son or servant may appear in other parts. But especially, Punya Bhumi is the place for spiritual knowledge.
Home office. Home office.
Home office, yes.
It's like, all right, we got to establish some place. We'll do it here. Because if you think, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, is it like that because Krishna appeared there, or is there something there and that's why Krishna appeared there?
Yeah, goes both
But
ways.
it's an eternal thing, so you can't say this came first. Because like Lord Chandra was 2 million years ago or something like that. So it's been the home office for a long time.
Even today,
Himalayas and
even today we've seen, a politician is a politician, and even Prabhupada here says there that sort of the Indian people are pious in spite of the leaders. And yet we've seen just recently that we've seen the Prime Minister prostrate himself before the deity of Lord Ram. And okay, a politician is a politician finally, but we don't find the leaders of other parts of the world prostrating themselves before the deity of Lord Ram, or praising the spread of the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. But in India you can find that. Even among the politicians who are spoken of with such disparagement, we find such extraordinary qualities.
And
Yes. We have a question here.
It even has the potency in India, has the potency to get Americans that would never bow down in front of a deity.
Yeah, India has the potency to get even Americans to bow down before the deity.
They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't walk into a temple here in America.
They wouldn't walk into a temple here in America and do that, but they'll do it in India.
Saraswati Mata brings up a point that Prabhupada often pressed on. Yarideke Tarakaha Krishna Upadesh. Although one in an Indian body has some training in obedience and natural tendency to respect Krishna, they become entrapped with pursuing economic development over anything else.
Therefore, Prabhupada made this point that the Indians who come abroad should not lose their culture. They should preserve that culture, and then they'll be able to do the greatest service for themselves and others. Should we stop here and have kirtan?
Yes, please.
And who's leading kirtan from here? Purushartha Prabhu. Well, this microphone's finished anyway.
It's working now, isn't it?
I think it's working now.
It's working now. It's a bad channel on the mixer.
I see.
What are you doing? Like drum. Would you like to lead?
I could, if you'd like me to, yeah.
Can just,
You know Kartikeya Prabhu?
yes, we know Kartikeya Prabhu. I guess this should go closer. Maybe it's fine.
Is it there or here? Where do you like?
Krishna, Krishna. Are you comfortable? Would you like a chair?
When they're in there, open.
They're open now. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamansi Pariprajacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and special thanks to the Alachua All-Star Kirtan Band.
Thank you so much to all. Hare Krishna.
Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends Ki Jai.
Right. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Haribo!